They say Aaron Taylor Johnson is talking about being the new James Bond.
All right, I thought it's always going to be Ryan Gosling. I think after I saw him in Gray Man, I think this guy is the perfect James Bond. So why not him?
Well, I'm not aware that he's done a British accent, though, in any movies that he's been in. He's American, and
Oh,
there's never been an American James Bond in the movie.
I even forgot that James Bond is a British franchise.
Yeah,
So only British people can play James Bond.
well, I don't know if only British people, but they had Robert Downey Jr. was Holmes, right? He was Sherlock Holmes,
Right,
and
right.
he's not British. I guess he did an okay British accent. People didn't complain about it. But Aaron Taylor Johnson is British, which I didn't know until Bullet Train. That's how dumb I am. I thought, well, this is an American. He played Kick
He
Ass.
played
He's
Kick Ass,
proven he
but
can
in
act.
Kick Ass, he was, I think, yeah, he was American in Kick Ass.
Yeah, he had an American accent in Kick Ass, so that's why I just assumed he was an American. He's done a good job with his action, so maybe he could pull it off. I've never seen him.
Because Daniel Craig is pretty hard to beat as James Bond. And I think the writing was different for Daniel Craig. It was a different kind of James Bond. It wasn't the James Bond we're used to with Pierce Brosnan. James Bond was just this macho, doesn't care for women.
Well, that's James Bond. That's the archetype.
But that was the old James Bond. That was the 80s James Bond. But the new millennia James Bond is more of a family man, is more of a gentleman, and a hopeless romantic.
That's what I like about the old James Bond. James Bond is like going to a restaurant where you get a 4 or 5 course meal. You know what the meal is.
Mm,
And if you take out any of the elements of that meal, then it's changed. But what happens with that is that he becomes just another action hero.
that's true. Yeah.
And so I liked Pierce Brosnan because he had that similar swagger, that suave attitude that Roger Moore had and Sean Connery had. He was bringing back the Bond of old. Daniel Craig was kind of a more modern action hero type James Bond, where it was more about the set pieces and the stories. And I think Casino Royale may be the best Bond film of all time, but
Oh, yes. Hands down.
to me, besides that, I still go back to Connery. I like Thunderball.
Mm.
I like From Russia with Love. I like those old ones.
I can see that, but I haven't really seen a lot of the Sean Connery ones because as a 90s kid, so
Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan was the James Bond I grew up with Denise Richards, and
Michelle Yeoh.
that was the James Bond I got to love.